Patrick Reynoso. You're on Checkitow.
¿Cómo estás?
¿Cómo anda?
Yeah, aquí nomás.
Good. I met you at your place. It's called Casa de Healing. A friend of mine,
sir.
Isabella Mico, took me. She's like, we're going to go do a temescal. I'm like, what's up? I've heard of that. It's a sweat lodge kind of thing, right? I have done, saunas, and I've done hot yoga and hot Pilates, but what an experience to do temescal. So let's work our way from the beginning. Tell me what Casa de Healing is and what motivated you to put a place like that together.
Thanks for coming out again. That was a beautiful sweat. She's a dear sister. Casa de Healing for me was it was just a spiritual journey of just life's many progressions and ups and downs and all arounds. But it came down to the notion of like being Mexican American, 3 generations here in Los Angeles. My family on both sides from Mexico, from Guadalajara and Zacatecas on my mom's side. It was kind of that notion of like mi casa es su casa that's just deeply ingrained in our beautiful culture. And I wanted to really step into that when my grandfather passed away. I went deep down on like a pilgrimage into the lineage and the culture and more of the ancestral ways. And at Temescal in Mexico, while I was out there kind of just searching for grounding and digging deeper within the culture, gave me that grounding and that clarity that I was really looking for at that time. And came back to LA. I was already on my walk and path with serving the medicine, working with peyote and several other medicines and indigenous elders from across the board, from Lakotas to a few others. Came back to LA, was searching for a temescali in LA, and there wasn't one. This was like 3-4 years ago. And I was like, this is crazy. Like, why is there no like temescal in LA when Los Angeles is predominantly Latino, as well as this originally was the Puebla before it became the United States? So I was like, whoa. And then it came to me in a prayer. I was like, you have to do this because there isn't one. And it was like kind of where I was at in my life of like how to step into a higher level of service and gratitude and reverence with the medicines. And like right when I got that prayer the next day, my partner at the time, she's like, one of my good friends is coming into town. He's a Mayan timekeeper. He's incredible, well respected. He does ceremonies all over the world. Could we have him over for tea? I was like, I would love that. And we're just broing out when he got there. And I shared with him, like, I just had this whole like prayer kind of realization that I should start at the mezcal and build one in the backyard. I just don't know where to start because I've never built one. And he's like, you have to build this. You don't understand the level of like just prayer and reverence that this will bring to your life. And I was like, okay. And he's like, I got you. Like, I'll back you. I'll help you build it. I've built many. And then it just kicked off into this wild journey that like never in my life did I think I would have a temescal in my backyard.
Now, explain what a temescal is, how it's shaped, and then what goes on in there.
In Mesoamerica, specifically the temescal, being that that's where my roots come from, it's over 1,000 years of a tradition, and it's essentially a built structure. There's many kind of ways of it being built, depending on if it's Mayan or Mexica or other denominations of indigenous tribes in Mexico area. It's an indigenous igloo, essentially. It's a dome that represents Pachamama's womb, the mother's womb of earth. And it's a prayer, it's a ceremony that represents death and rebirth. So you crawl back into the womb to release what no longer serves you, and the hot volcanic rocks serve as the ancestors and the ability to like release, and they absorb what you're releasing that no longer serves. So you could rebirth yourself anew. The specific build that we did in the backyard, because when I got like the prayer to build this thing, I was like, if I'm going to build it, I'm going to put my blood, sweat, and tears into it. I put my life savings into building out this whole yard, because to me that was like the most integral thing I could do to really hold space for my city and to hold space for my community and really like bring back the prayers and the ancestral wisdom back to LA, being that this temple of the Temescal was a native temple to this land. So I built it in a very unique way. It's probably one of the most unique builds in the world. In terms of, I built it 3 ways. It's partial like Mayan style with like crystals, gridding. It's part Mexica style, like Aztec style with the adobe round berth. And then also it's partial sweat lodge up north of Lakotas. And because LA is kind of the center of the north and the south, there's many reasons why I built it that way, is like to honor all the ways of sweat prayer, as well as to honor the many elders and all these lineages into our lodge so that we can share this medicine with as many people as possible.
It's such an amazing experience. You know, I did it. I think I've done it twice at your place. The first time I was brought to the brink of death. The second time I was a little bit more prepared. So you go into this this earth igloo with, you have some stuff on top, and then in the middle there's a hole where they bring in these volcanic rocks that they heat up in the fire, and then the shaman, whoever's leading the ceremony, will splash water onto them, creating steam. The first 20 minutes, I'm like, I got this. But the last half hour, especially the last 20 minutes, you're fighting the urge to get to leave. And in fact, the first time I did it, about a third of the people did not make it to the end. So, they kindly asked permission to crawl out. One person crawled out before you guys even brought in the volcanic rocks. Because it's completely dark, because they shut the entrance. So even if you're doing it in the middle of the day, it is pitch black in there, correct, except for the glow of the volcanic rocks that you bring in. You're confronting a lot of fears. The darkness, the crampedness, it's a tight space, the heat as it builds up over the course of the hour. Best sleep I've ever had that night, and also just the spiritual aspect of it, the singing, I guess that you would call them icaros, kind of like what you would call the ayahuasca songs. Do you call them icaros as well, the songs that you sing? Yeah. Where do you meet these cast of characters that lead your ceremonies?
It's been many beautiful ways, but all divine for sure. We predominantly run it like Mexica style and Mayan style, as well as like what I understood in the medicine and running these ceremonies alongside with a lot of these elders and facilitators, that there is no sort of purism, so to speak, of like when it was invented by the Mexicas in their specific way, and like the Mayans in their specific way, and Lakotas in a specific way. Beyond like the different kind of like prayers and the ways of running it, the actual fundamental foundation of like the elements like water, fire, and the sensory deprivation, as you mentioned, it's pitch black in there. And there's many different references in the Bible and many other religions and prayers that it's best to meditate in pure darkness, because quite literally in the physiology of your body, your third eye or your pineal gland is able to like be connected and activated. So I understood all these things, and then the contrast therapy of extreme heat, breath work, the modalities of the elements, and all these things are all powerful in their own right. To me, is like I want to have that respect and reverence for the medicines and the ancestral ways, but also I want to integrate another tier and level of like adding on modalities that are very powerful individually in their own right, but on top of that, putting it into the setting of the Temescal takes it to a whole nother level. Because to me, like my service of love is that to offer all these different things as well as create the new things. Because if people are going to come to us and they don't know all these things, or maybe they do, I want to offer like another layer of like healing in different ways and whatnot. So
even though you want to adhere sometimes to traditional ways of doing things, there's also room to evolve it. There's also room to add something new. There's also room to change certain things, respectfully. I'm seeing that in the community that you're building when I've gone to visit. I love that it's in East LA, top of a hill in East LA. So it's almost, there's something, there's a statement being made, when we have this thing that's reconnecting the old to the new and welcoming everyone into it. Did you always live in that place? Did you seek out to make it there instead of, Hollywood or whatever?
There's many kind of perspectives to that question, but it just worked out that the family business is real estate, and we built that home that I'm actually in, that's Casa de Healing, together 3 generations in the land that originally was obviously Mexico and it was predominantly Latino, as well as like where the old Puebla used to be, and we built it from the ground up 3 generations. And just after we finished it, my grandfather passed away, so that kicked me off on like the whole journey of going to Mexico and like diving deeper and learning a lot more about the Temescal and kind of the lineage and all these things. And then when I built it, it was just kind of set and setting and very aligned at the highest levels, that like this is also where my parents were raised in Boyle Heights and East LA, and where I was partially raised too. So it was just all these like synchronicities, the highest levels. It just gave so much depth and meaning of like, all right, I'm fully in. This is like my heart and soul. This is our land, all these things. And like, I need to show up for myself, because the more I love myself and the more I follow my spark and my joy, the more I can love others and support them and going down their own path if they're called to these ways. So that's why I literally dumped my heart and soul, invested my life savings into building everything that I built, and also built it with my own hands. I had support, of course, but as I was building it, I realized, being in the wellness industry for 10 years prior to that, that set and setting in terms of any healing is 80% or more sometimes of the majority of healing that takes place. The extra 20% is the actual ceremony or the medicines or the modality. So I understood all these things, and since I was a builder and I had so much depth to like the land and the history and my history, and I went to the furthest extent of like building the whole backyard with crystal grids and copper grounds to help bring up the Schumann resonance of the land, and really putting my heart and soul and my style and everything into creating like a very powerful set and setting. So when people come, it's truly like mi casa, su casa.
I'm interested in how you went down this spiritual path and wanted to connect with ancient ancestral modalities and healing, because I can't imagine that your aunts and uncles and your parents were doing temescal and hape and all that stuff, right? So how did you go through, how did you find that? And you said you were in the wellness industry, so I'm wondering, how those dots connected for you.
It kind of all sparked with my passion for extreme sports. Since I was like 3 years old, grew up on like dirt bikes and off-roading, pursued that the majority of my life, then got into like professional competitions with mountain biking, downhill racing,
Nice.
and broke at this point 28 bones, and have almost died several times from like crazy scenarios in extreme sports, as well as just life scenarios. Also growing up in the ghetto and jumped and stabbed and all these crazy situations. And when I was in the wellness world, I got into that because of like competing and having to like figure out how to biohack myself, how to take my mental, physical game to like the furthest extent so that I could be on top of like competing and doing some of the craziest stuff on the planet. And then that all kind of just added up into stepping into the wellness industry as I kind of got away from competing professionally and started focusing on business and wellness and stuff.
Do you travel to Mexico a lot?
Yeah, quite often, several times a year.
And so what do you do there, and has it taken on a different element the past few years now that you've been doing the Casa de Healing and you've been tapping into all this ancestral stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely has evolved. Like for New Year's, we're just out in the Efe, and we went out to this incredible hot spring that is like 3.5 hours outside of Mexico City in the middle of nowhere. But it was a specific tribe that ran that area, and it's one of the most epic hot springs I've ever been to, and I'm like a hot spring connoisseur. It just was really life-changing to us to like experience that medicine, and the medicine of the water is like, we are water predominantly, and water is like the most significant element in life that gives us life. So to be in the sacred waters that are geothermic waters with all the minerals, and being that our skin is the largest organ in the human body, and we can absorb all these minerals and the wisdom of earth and these prayers, is really, really special. So now when I go to Mexico or anywhere in Latin America, that's more so my focus of like, how can I go seek and find out these beautiful like ancient spots that are either a temple or a pyramid or whatever it is, to learn those ways.
As someone who grew up here, is that something that you've always felt, or is it something that you have to grow into and realize, like the spot that you're in, you're even saying you're bringing in, you're recognizing all the spiritual modalities to the north and to the south, and it meets here, and it's an LA kid kind of trying to reconnect with his ancestral past that might not have been as accessible growing up, right?
Yeah.
Like was there an awakening, or was it a gradual process? Did you always have it in you? Because you have like a spiritual vibe inherently, so you probably already had that vibe maybe when you were a kid.
My mother is Catholic, was raised Catholic and then converted to Christianity, and gave me to God when I was born, and I almost died when I was born. with like a birth defect and all these things. And then they were telling her that I was going to have some sort of mental disorder that would change my life and not allow me to be functioning when I was older. And also being born where my parents didn't have much, and I was like born and raised in Boyle Heights area and San Gabriel area, and like in the early 90s I was growing up in a lot of darkness, and then my parents started to do better, and my father was working on like the west side in Beverly Hills and getting construction clients. It was kind of like a duality for me of like I was living kind of more so in like the ghetto or like the less kind of economically fortunate situation and area, but then also seeing the duality of life. And so really growing up here, it gave me a full spectrum of what life can be and is, because LA is like the full spectrum of all things, from extreme wealth to extreme poverty to all things, gangs, violence, love, spirituality. So it gave me an idea of like my own darkness and growing up in the darkness, that I guess intuitively and introspectively through those experiences led me down this path, and I was more so aware and had a more so understanding and greater perspective of the depth of kind of life. So I feel like it's like a big topic, and I've experienced so much of that where like people are like, oh, like, because if they're just judging me from the outside in, since I'm Mexican American, and I was when I was brought up here in America, I was wanting to be more American than like my Mexican or Latino roots, and I didn't pick up Spanish as much because I was like, I want to be like American because it's cool and all these things, that I lost a lot of kind of my language and connecting to my ancestral roots growing up, until like I got older and I realized like I love who I am and I love my upbringing, I love my people, and like Mexico is and like all countries in all ways are amazing, excuse my language, in our own ways, and it's beautiful. But like being that I am that, I love my people, I love my culture, I need to embrace that. But to people that would judge me, they're like, oh, he's just like, he's culture appropriating, or he's a white boy or whatever. And I've gotten a lot of that. And they're like, oh, he's a colonialist, and he's like culture appropriating with the Temescal and these ancestral ways and stuff. And even in my own neighborhood, like my neighbors have said this to me, and then they come meet me and they're like, oh, wow, like you're amazing. And I love you, and I love what you're doing, and you're why. And I think with Guru Jagat and many others, it's like the more we speak in this way and have these conversations that we're having now about our why at our deepest levels, then people could really connect and understand that like, oh, wow, okay, that's amazing. And I get that. Now I know more about that person and why they're doing it. So there's no sort of like judgments or questions of like, is he really Mexican? Is he really doing it for the right reasons? Is Guru Jagat really who she says she is? Is she just trying to monetize this? Is she like really a cult? Is it really like, but like the more we speak our truth and the more we have honest and genuine conversations like this, I feel like it can help more people, and it's more of the medicine that I feel like modern day culture needs. I respect all people, I respect all traditions, because I know that each tradition, each lineage, each modality is powerful and there's truth to it. And if I could be open enough to at least learn and try it and give it like that open and welcoming like experience to see if it works for me, then that's beautiful. And if it does, then I adopt these different tools. And I think that's the human experience zooming out throughout history, right? Is like we all learn from each other. All cultures have been inspired by other cultures in other ways. So I think this is more of the topic that needs to be spoken about, so that we don't face any sort of like negativity. And maybe there is some leaders that are obviously more on the negative cult and like kind of have gotten lost in their own sauce, or lost their own integrity, or lost their own why. And also speaking to that too is I think integral to like posterity and just humanity being humans. It's like, how could we really just love each other and understand each other and hold space for each other? Because I believe that every single human being, like I mentioned, is a VIPP, and I will never understand the depth and complexity of your life and what you've gone through, of like the traumas and the pain and the suffering and all the beautiful joy and all the beautiful love and all the things you've experienced that made you the incredible man that you are, that you're stepping into this incredible service, speaking these truth and bringing these cultural leaders and unique people to speak their truth and share it with so many people that are seeking these unique ways. And that's beautiful. But I'll never fully understand your full depth, so I'm never going to judge you. Every single person has gone through so many beautiful and transformative things, and I don't know where they're coming from. I don't know what they're going through right now in this moment. So like, I don't want to ever like judge people in a negative way. I want to give people with open arms and reverence of like, I see you. I want to treat you as best as I can as my brother or as my sister, because I believe that like that's what we can do and what we can aspire to as a humanity is to become the humans again. It's not so much about our differences, because we have so many more things in common than we do apart. But it's these unique kind of like modalities, it's these unique ethnic and cultural and ancestral practices that make life so beautiful and so unique that we get to share these gifts with each other in these ways. And it's like, hey, this is what has worked for me and my people. Like, I would love to share with you because it's meant so much to me. And like, that's what Casa de Healing is. It's like, and
Well,
that's
brother,
why you're doing what you're doing.
thank you so much. I think that you're definitely I'm gonna say a right person instead of the right person, because I think there's many right people to step into this conversation, and I'm honored that you came here and so eloquently stepped into that conversation here and check it out, man. Thank you for coming along. I'll see you at a Temescal soon,
Yeah,
man.
much love, bro.
Thank you for coming. Casa de Healing, and we'll put all the information on the bottom where people can reach out and see you. Patrick Reynoso, you've been on Check It Out.
Check it out.